What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. No build today, but still there's something about Destiny 2 that I'd like to discuss. More specifically, two things that have recently crept into my mind, and I think that at the very least they might not have affected Destiny in the most positive way, or could be a problem for us down the line. Now before you click away, this is not a discussion about skills-based matchmaking or things being too easy or burnout, anything like that. In fact, I am so used to skill-based matchmaking now from all the other shooters and games that I play in that genre that really it isn't something that affects me anymore, and the amount of Crucible that I've played so far in my first 5 weeks back with the game right now, it doesn't really bother me that much. Secondly, there's definitely no chance of burnout on my side. I took about a 4-season break, so there's a hell of a lot of content for me to go through, and it was one of the reasons why, first of all, I took a break, because I wanted to let a little bit of stuff build up again that I could start playing. And secondly, it is really refreshing coming back into a game and having a ton of stuff to do and always something for you to do when you turn the game on every single day. So without it being those two things and the intro of the video done, let's get on to my point and the two things I want to discuss. Coming back into Destiny 2 after my break, the crafting system was something that was completely new to me. And I first of all thought that this was, the greatest idea ever, and obviously after I started playing some of the Witch Queen content and I started unlocking some of these patterns, I realized that this was a unique mechanic for me to be able to feel like I always had this imaginary carrot dangling in front of me, and that there was always another pattern to unlock and something else I could work for. Certainly this is a way for you to always have something to, sort of like work towards, and to always have a pattern or a specific kind of weapon that is just around the corner to unlocking, and then actually leveling up and just building the exact version of the weapon that you're looking for, whether it is something that you want to drag into PvP content or something into PvE. Now, after having dealt with this for a while, and after having actually crafted quite a few weapons, leveled them up and taken them into various bits of content, the realization comes that the crafting system has somehow, and I mean it's definitely not inadvertently, and I don't think that this is something that's any mystery to a bunch of people, but it has changed the dynamic of the loot game of Destiny 2. Now, Destiny 2 being a looter shooter, of course, the looting in the game is a massive carrot, a massive incentive that drives you to come back to the game and play. But at the same time, it also has this kind of like FOMO kind of, attachment to it, which means that if there's a specific activity that you missed that had a specific weapon in it and you don't get it, there's no way for you to get that again. And if that had a super favorable roll, then there's no way for you to get that. And it kind of creates this idea without a crafting system that you kind of have to be there all the time to make sure that you get those weapons. Likewise, certain really good weapons with favorable rolls can be locked behind activities that you never play or aren't necessarily any good at, or something that you basically have no interest in. There's a ton of people that play Destiny 2 that never ever want to play it competitively and never ever set foot into any kind of competitive PvP kind of situation in the game. And likewise, there's tons of people that essentially play Destiny 2 almost in a way like a single player game with very limited interaction with other people, and so therefore never ever actually going into a raid. Now, crafting in a way for sure addresses some of that by giving those kinds of players something that they can still feel that they work towards, and can actually give them very powerful weapons. In Season of the Plunder, we saw that basically right off the rip, straight as the season started, we got a linear fusion rifle, which is pretty much best in slot and really good at pretty much any content that you put in front of it. And the fact that that is an actual pattern that you can put into the foundry or whatever it is, and you can build as many versions of that linear fusion rifle exactly customizing to the way that you want, is definitely a good thing. The problem comes from the fact that I've noticed now that for me specifically, it's not that I throw all other rolls of guns away. Of course not. I still check out for god rolls or really good rolls, anything like that. But generally speaking, for me, there's a massive letdown if I play a certain activity and I don't get any red bars from it. Red bars commonly referring to weapons that now have a pattern unlock on them. Now, some of these weapons you can literally just harvest the material off of, but some of the red bars, after having done a few of them, like 5 or 2 or 3 of them, you actually unlock that particular weapon's pattern, and then you can go to the foundry and craft your own versions of it. Now, I'm starting to ramble now, but I promise I'm getting to my point. But the main issue for for me right now is that while I still have a whole bunch of these patterns to unlock, I am enjoying the fact that I'm farming and I'm progressively moving towards having all of these patterns unlocked. And as I unlock each pattern, I craft 2 versions of the weapon, a PvE and a PvP, and I start leveling them up. And it's really hitting all of those gears and levers for me in that is important to me in a game like this, because I feel like I'm progressing towards something and I feel like I'm unlocking something. What is missing for me now is the fact that in the old days, any weapon that you got from an activity, especially some of the ones which could guard roll, I would sit and look and see exactly what came with it and figure out if it's something that, even though maybe the magazine isn't right or the barrel isn't right, I would be willing to deal with that due to the fact that it has a favorable trait 1 and trait 2. The fact that the craftable items are available for each weapon type, in certain cases for multiples of a weapon type, means that I don't really have to do this anymore. The only thing I should concern myself with is doing whichever activity gives me the most chance of unlocking those patterns, and then once I have those patterns, crafting those from materials that I farm and then building them up. That means a couple of weeks from now, if I'm diligent enough, I will have a full roster of weapons which are good for anything, whether I need a linear fusion rifle, a grenade launcher, a rocket launcher, an assault rifle, a pulse rifle, whatever I need for whichever activity, I will be able to cover that with these crafted weapons, which have the perfect roles for whichever thing I need them to do. That kind of eliminates like 85 to 90% of the rest of the loot in the game. And in some cases, yes, sure, you will chase down certain, loot because of the way that it looks, or because of, let's say the activity that is required to get it, and so there's a certain amount of prestige in it. But it's weird for me that in a game like this, basically Bungie, they've eliminated one of the big reasons for you to continuously be plugging away at a heavy piece of content or a hard piece of content, because there's a specific weapon that does a specific thing locked behind it. I'm fairly concerned that once I actually have all of the patterns unlocked in the game, that would somehow affect my interest in continuing on playing, because of the simple fact that there's something in the back of my mind that tells me that you can craft every weapon that you need for whichever purpose you need to drive them through. And so therefore, yes, you can get weapons that look different, you can get weapons that sound different, you can get weapons that maybe have one trait that isn't available in the other traits in there, but is it really going to make that big a difference? The other thing is, of course, that once they've now started this wheel rolling, it has to kind of continue on. I can imagine that every piece of DLC that we get from now on has a few more of these patterns that we can unlock and that we can add to this foundry, unless, of course, they sunset the foundry. Who knows? I know that sunsetting is something that kind of is being phased out now due to the general negativity that's attached to it. So I imagine that crafting is here to stay. And while I really enjoy it right now, I wonder if it's healthy for the longevity of the game, or even failing that, if it's healthy for the longevity of the game for me. In other words, how long I'll continue on playing after I have all the patterns. The second issue that Destiny 2 has, and this is unfortunately one that it shared with its predecessor Destiny 1, is simply the horrible onboarding of new players of the franchise or of the game. This has been something that's been around since the first year of Destiny 2 coming out, and unfortunately there's a whole bunch of factors that contribute to this, sunsetting being one of them, where literal chunks of content that used to be part of the campaign of Destiny 2 where it came out have been ripped from the game or retired from the game. And just in general, this being something that hasn't been looked at, and essentially the entire focus being on the front of the game and what's coming, and not about people that are joining along the way. Destiny 2 is a game that I've been playing for a super long time, and then taking a break and then playing it again, and then taking a break and then playing it again. And this is like my third time back to the game, and this is the first time that it's a game that I make content for, and it's a game that I actually stream. And I have tons of people that come either onto the Discord, shout out to the Discord, by the way, invitation in the description below, jump on there, a whole bunch of like-minded gamers that play looter shooters like Outriders, Destiny 2, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Plus, we're just a bunch of cool folk and we'd love to have you, so join in there and come and have some fun with us in games. But I've had people coming onto the Discord, people coming onto the videos, people coming onto the streams and saying, yo man, I've never played Destiny 2 before, but I got to know you through Outriders or anything like that, and it looks like you're having a bunch of fun. I'm thinking of picking this up. Where do I start and what do I do? Now, when that conversation comes my way, of course the answer is simply that yes, there is a version of Destiny 2 which is free to play. Let's call it New Light or whatever, and you can install that and you can see if the game is for you, if you enjoy it. That's usually my advice. Before dropping a single dollar, you can do that and you can see if you like the gunplay, do you like the movement, do you like all of that. And then of course following that, there's a whole bunch of, you know, Beyond Light, Witch Queen, you know, all of that. There's a whole bunch of DLC that you can buy, which will give you massive chunks of content. And of course we have a new major expansion coming out next year as well. The issue is that I know the minute I tell someone to install that free version of Destiny 2, that is most likely going to drive them away from the game. What I mean by this is that simply when you install Destiny 2 for the first time as a new player, you have a 21-step quest that you have to complete that basically takes you through the game and, you know, takes you into your first dungeon, takes you into your, not dungeon rather, but takes you into your first strike, takes you into your first lost sector, and essentially teaches you things about doing patrols and all of that. And then you're basically left to your own devices, and it's almost in a way as if this is one of those find your own adventure games, which it absolutely is not. Destiny 2 is 100% a game where it pays for you to realize that there's a certain amount of things that you should be doing in a day to be efficient. There's a certain amount of things you should be doing in a week to be efficient, and so on. Now, I know that Destiny 2's been around for a super long time, and there are literally a gajillion people making content for this game. So it is not difficult for you to go onto the internet, onto Google, onto YouTube, and, you know, Google pretty much anything that you're looking to find out in this game, and there'll be someone that has made some form of a tutorial to try and help you to accomplish that. But that's no excuse. Just because your game is old enough that there's this much content that has been created for it. In fact, there's so much content created already for Destiny, for stuff that's been sunset, stuff that's been taken away, paid content that's been taken away that players cannot access anymore, that even that stuff muddles up the information about the game, where somebody will be looking to try and go to a specific planet and then realizing, wait a minute, that planet doesn't exist anymore, it's not available anymore. My point is this: I think your hardcore players will always stick with the game and will play it into perpetuity until there's a Destiny 3 or whatever, and you'll have your casuals that'll show up along the way and everything like that. But what isn't being looked at is the fact that new players will come along the way and try to join in on this fun, and they'll have to sort of like sit through this ridiculously convoluted process of, you know, starting out with this quest and then not really understanding what they need to do, because there is literally no tutorial in the game. There is nothing that explains crafting to you. There's nothing that explains mods to you. All of this, and some of this stuff now, when you look at it as a veteran of the game, might not seem that complicated, but it is actually a lot. There's a lot of information in here. And so my dilemma is this, that whenever anybody joins my streams or something like that and says, yo dude, I'm trying to get into Destiny 2, one of the first things I say to them is, dude, it's a fantastic game, it's amazing, but your first couple of hours with the game are gonna suck. You're gonna hate it, and you're gonna want to stop playing. And it's really strange to me that this is something that Bungie hasn't definitively addressed. Through maybe, you know, commissioning some of these fantastic creators in the space of Destiny 2 to create a tutorial experience that becomes official, that plays at the beginning when you actually start the game as a new player, or whether it becomes a resource that the company themselves creates and, you know, puts in front of players. Not just this shitty 21-step quest that literally doesn't actually even cover, let's say, 15% of everything that can be done. Certainly, as we're heading towards a new expansion for Destiny 2 that's coming out, I think that, yeah, you can always depend on your regulars being there, but certainly new blood, new people coming on board and joining should be considered. And this is something that is an extreme low light for me at the moment in Destiny, and something that's not being looked at. I hope, we don't know everything that comes with the new expansion in February, but I hope that certainly that this is something that's in the back of Bungie's mind, and something that they are considering, that there needs to be this road that's paid for people that want to join after the fact but don't want to feel like they're at a massive deficit. It's okay for people to feel like they don't have all the guns. It's okay for people to feel like they don't have all the gear. But to make them feel like, you know, you had to be at the beginning to understand what the shit means. If you weren't here at the beginning, you missed the briefing, and sorry, there's no help for you. It is what it is not right. And that turns away a lot of people. Realistically, like in the last 2 weeks, I've had upwards of 10 to 15 people that have installed the new the free version of Destiny 2 and played it for a bit and then said to me, dude, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know, like I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. I feel like I don't know what I should be doing. I feel like I'm being pulled in 15 different directions and I don't know what to prioritize. I don't know what I should be doing. I think the most important thing is that, you know, not everybody sits on YouTube, not everybody, you know, Googles how-tos and everything like that. The stuff needs to be intuitively built into the game to deal with this sort of thing. Notoriously, a game like Warframe had this issue for the longest of times, and they spent a huge amount of effort to try and streamline this onboarding of new player experience at the beginning, and it was a huge step for them, and it opened up the game for a lot of people. Never mind the fact that I think Warframe is unfortunately back again in the position where it's really, really weird and difficult to get into. But that's a story for another video and another day. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about crafting in Destiny 2. Is it something that you're enjoying as much as I am right now? Is it of concern for you that down the line that might affect your appreciation of good rolls, good loot dropping, because you'll know that you always have the crafting table in the back that you can just make whatever you need as long as you unlock the pattern and you don't actually have to worry about what drops for you as long as it's red bars. And also how you feel about the onboarding experience. More specifically, I'd really like to hear from players that have recently tried out Destiny 2 and if they've been turned away by this in the past, or are they currently trying to trudge through it and it's not really working out for them, or maybe I'm imagining this, you know, onboarding issue and it's actually super easy and guys are having a good time. Let me know about that as well. But it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon and evening wherever you are in the world. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.